Donald Trump has been reduced to begging allies for help in Iran as he is clearly way in over his head. Now, as you know, the Straits of Hormuz have been a key topic of discussion lately, as Iran has shut it down, and clearly Trump and team were not prepared for this moment. Well, Donald Trump took to Truth Social today to talk about it at length and then added this. Hopefully, China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated. Yeah, Donald Trump is now begging our allies. The same people who he said wouldn't help us have never helped us. The same people he's been dumping on, he is now begging for help. And that is Donald Trump begging, because he will never come out and directly ask for assistance. He views that as a sign of weakness. But Donald Trump is now learning a lesson the hard way. He has spent a year knocking down our allies, saying that we don't need them because of how great we are, and now he's in a moment where he is desperate for their help. This is going to be an interesting situation to watch.
When we talk about the Strait of Hormuz, which is such an important transit point for global trade, you have said it is closed to Israel and it's closed to the United States. The Financial Times is reporting that European diplomats from France and Italy are talking to your government about trying to get safe passage for their ships. Are you open to restarting oil and gas vessels going through there?
Well, we are open to countries who want to talk to us about the safe passage of their vessels.
You are negotiating with France and Italy?
Well, I cannot mention any country in particular, but we have been approached by a number of countries who wants to have a safe passage for their vessels, and this is up to our military to decide. And they have already decided to let a group of vessels belongs to different countries to pass in a safe and secure. So we provide them security to pass because we have not closed this strait. They are not coming themselves because of the insecurity which is there because of the aggression by the U.S.
Against Iran is going so bad that Donald Trump is literally groveling and begging other countries to help. Look at this right here. He says that hopefully other nations will provide ships so they can keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Wait, what happened to our Navy? I thought he said, they were decimating and destroying Iran and they've already won. Apparently not. He even is asking China in this social media post. It is pathetic. And what's also interesting is 10 days ago, he said our once great ally, the UK, was thinking about sending a ship. What did Donald Trump say to try to be funny? Well, we don't need you anymore because, the war will be over in a couple days. Wrong. There you go. You see how it's turning out for this guy. Not good. Against Iran is going so bad that Donald Trump is literally groveling and begging other countries to help. Look at this right here. He says that hopefully other nations will provide ships so they can keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Wait, what happened to our Navy? I thought he said, they were decimating and destroying Iran and they've already won. Apparently not. He even is asking China in this social media post. It is pathetic. And what's also interesting is 10 days ago, he said our once great ally, the UK, was thinking about sending a ship. What did Donald Trump say to try to be funny? Well, we don't need you anymore because, the war will be over in a couple days. Wrong. There you go. You see how it's turning out for this guy. Not good.
Right then, last week, Donald Trump told Britain to shove its aircraft carriers because he'd already won the war against Iran. Direct quote, "We don't need them any longer, Prime Minister Starmer. We will remember." Very dramatic, very final. Cut to today, and this absolute weapon is now begging Britain, France, China, and basically anyone with a boat to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz because, surprise, Iran hasn't actually been defeated. Oil traffic is down 90%, ships are getting attacked daily, and the man who destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability is now tweeting about bombing the hell out of shorelines whilst asking for international backup. The Ministry of Defence responded with peak British diplomacy. "We're discussing options," which in government speak means we're pretending to check our diaries whilst watching this train wreck unfold. Magnificent scenes.
1 week ago, the message from White House was clear. The United States has already won. No help needed. But today, the tone has changed. Now Donald Trump is calling allies across the world to support from Europe to Asia. So what's happened? And what does it mean for America if these allies refuse? Credit to the Stitches video used in this segment for highlighting the shift in tone from Washington.
Well, folks, Donald Trump is now begging other countries for their help in his war against Iran because, quite frankly, things are just not going to plan for Donald Trump with this conflict. He's now begging war-torn countries that he has personally insulted for their assistance. And this comes after Donald Trump, when asked how he would rate the war in Iran on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how well it's going, he said 15. He said 15, it's going great. Couldn't be going better, it's perfect. Well, Donald Trump is now begging countries for their help because things are not going perfectly. So let's get into this article, let's talk about it. This is from the Daily Beast. Trump begs war-torn country, again, a country that he's berated, for help on Iran. Donald Trump is apparently turning to war-ravaged Ukraine for help in his surprise attack on Iran. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his nightly address Wednesday that the United States, along with other allied countries, is seeking Kyiv's assistance in defending against Iranian drones. Quote, this is what Zelensky said word for word. Partners are turning to us, to Ukraine, asking for help in defending against Iranian drones with expertise and real operational experience. There have also been requests from the American side, and I just think this is so ironic. I mean, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, the Trump administration, they've done everything they can to bully Zelensky, bully Ukraine, bully the people of Ukraine. They've basically demanded that Ukraine adhere to Russia's demands for a peace deal, which would just give Russia a bunch of land, a bunch of power, a bunch of leverage, and the ability in the future to invade Ukraine again. So Donald Trump has treated Ukraine like crap. And now he's turning around saying, hey, I hope you guys can forget about that. Let's, maybe assist with fighting Iran. Interesting. The problem is, though, is that Trump's request could lead to a dire shortage of U.S. air defense missiles in Ukraine at a moment when Ukraine's war effort has stretched into its 4th year. 2 European diplomats told Reuters there is mounting concern that Ukraine will become increasingly vulnerable as Trump drags on his bombardment of Iran. And this is something that's not getting a lot of attention. Donald Trump, either knowingly or unknowingly, is playing into Putin's hand again. I mean, he's taking a lot of American resources are focused on Iran, and we're now asking Ukraine for their missiles, their resources, which only makes them weaker and gives Russia an opportunity to strike. Obviously, Donald Trump is not thinking about this. I truly believe to this day that Donald Trump could not point to Ukraine on a map if you asked him if his life depended on it, but this is an indirect result of what Trump is doing in Iran, and it's not getting the coverage it deserves. The appeal also comes as Trump has pressed Zelensky and Ukrainian officials to strike a peace deal with Vladimir Putin, who Donald Trump has famously praised for quite some time. So Trump turning to Ukraine for assistance. Interesting. But also there's another layer here. There's been reporting that the United States is running out of munitions, that there is deep concern among the Pentagon that we're going to run out of ammo in the Middle East. And so Donald Trump has tried to qualm those fears. The other day, he put out this statement saying the United States munitions stockpile have, at the medium and upper medium grade, never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever and very successfully using just these supplies, which are better than...
President Trump is calling on other countries to help secure safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump specifically called on China, France, the UK, and others to help. The shipping traffic has been at a virtual standstill in the strait, caused gas prices to spike. In a new interview with MS Now, Iran's foreign minister disputed the claim that the strait is closed. CNN correspondent Julia Benbrook has more.
This is a big area of focus right now, as roughly 20% of the world's oil travels through the Strait of Hormuz. And President Donald Trump has posted about this several times over the weekend. I want to pull up part of one of those posts for you now. In it, he said this: many countries, especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the Hormuz Strait, will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America to keep the strait open and safe. We have already destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability, but it's easy for them to send a drone or two, drop a mine, or deliver a close-range missile somewhere along or in this waterway, no matter how badly defeated they are. He added that he hopes, emphasis on hopes there, that China, France, South Korea, and the United Kingdom will be sending ships. In the meantime, he says that the United States will be bombing the shoreline. Now, in a separate post, he reiterated his calls for other countries to help secure shipping in the passage, adding that he believes this should have been a team effort all along, and now it will be. He said the United States will be helping with coordination to ensure that this is done quickly, smoothly, and well. And this comes as Americans are feeling a direct impact here, as there is a surge in gas prices. And while Trump has said he is confident those will eventually go down, this could be an attempt to ease some of those growing concerns. Iran's foreign minister has denied claims that the strait is completely closed, instead saying that they are blocking vessels with ties to the United States and Israel.
A week ago, President Trump told Keir Starmer that he didn't need help from the British, especially coming in after the U.S., in his words, had already won. Fast forward to this weekend, where he's asking for help from China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, others as well, to continue passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Frame the reality that is confronting the president at this stage of the war.
Sure. I think his initial comments were related to the four objectives that were laid out in terms of what the Pentagon was trying to achieve from a military perspective, because there was a question about whether or not we would need to use the British base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean to be able to launch strategic bombers against Iran. And I think the Pentagon determined, obviously, now that it could do so without having to use that base. Now we're talking about a different mission set. So in addition to those four objectives that were laid out in terms of taking out the missiles, the missile launchers, the drones, the defense industrial base behind that, the Navy, and then potentially the nuclear program, which Cedric just spoke to in terms of what they're targeting, a new mission set has popped up, and that is the defense of the Straits of Hormuz to allow folks to be able to transit there commercial shipping-wise, because the Iranians have now adopted a strategy of trying to apply pressure on the U.S. administration to stop the war by jacking up the price of oil, basically by making the straits virtually impossible to transit. They're physically open, but due to the threat of a potential attack, ships are not transiting at the moment. And so the U.S. is trying to build an international naval coalition, similar to what they did off the coast of Yemen when the Houthis were attacking during the last round of conflict.
Colonel, I want you to listen here to the Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi. He was on last evening. Let's watch.
I can say that the strait is not closed, but it is only closed to American, Israeli, ships and tankers, and not to others.
So he says it's open. Are countries, companies likely to test that assurance? I mean, consider President Pezeshkian said that the Iranians were sorry for attacking their Gulf neighbors and then continued hours later to attack them and still are. You think anybody's going to test that offer?
I don't think so, Victor. And I think, as Alex was alluding to, the basic thing is this: because the Iranians can't be trusted, shipping companies are not going to trust them. And that's the real dilemma for them here. They've got a whole bunch of ships on either side of the Strait of Hormuz, and those ships aren't moving except for very few exceptions because the Iranians are posing a threat. They probably, so far at least, have not really mined the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe in a symbolic sense, they've deployed a few mines, but they have not done so en masse. And that definitely leads to the conclusion that, yes, it's physically possible to possibly transit the strait, but it's very dangerous, and there's a risk there that they're not willing to take.
Alex, what's your thought on what the president told NBC, that he's not ready to make a deal to end the war? The president says that Iran wants to make a deal, but he doesn't want to, quote, because the terms aren't good enough yet. Doesn't say what those terms are, but implied here is that there are terms offered, that there are talks, that there are some offers from the Iranians. Doesn't seem like there's been anything since the talks before the opening of this war. What do you hear there from the president?
Well, I'm hearing from the president's what I'm hearing from mediators in the region as well, where there's been several nation states that have attempted to mediate or pass messages in between. And so that part, as you just alluded to, yes, I mean, that's pretty common at this point in the war. And this actually all aligns with strategies on both sides, to be honest with you. So, it looks like there's several weeks of strikes left to complete the military mission on the U.S. side, and it becomes a question of will. Is the will there to see the mission through and ensure that there's not a capability left inside of Iran that could strike back? And I think the president's made clear that the objectives that he's laid out are to make sure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon or the ability to get one at the end of this, to break out, so to speak, missiles and drones and that type of thing, which is a pretty robust mission. It's a very, very big industrial base that has to be targeted in order to sort of take that out. And for the Iranians, they're acting from a position of existential threat. They believe that the regime is at threat, and so they're doing everything they can to try to ensure that this doesn't end in an unconditional surrender. They want a conditional ceasefire on their terms. So I think at this point, you almost have to see the Straits mission through and open that up and not allow the Iranians to choke it off, or that's going to become a strategic choke point and means of deterrence in the future. And that'll hold the global economy basically at risk whenever the Iranians want to. And that's something that simply can't stand.
How do you see this playing out from where we sit today?
The president doesn't yet know how to get the Straits reopened. As of right now, almost all of the naval assets that the United States has in the Persian Gulf are being used to defend Gulf infrastructure, energy, desalination, and bases. And as a consequence, you can't defend the ships that are going through the Straits or that are sitting there in the Straits, which are right now basically sitting ducks if the Iranians choose to hit them. That's why President Trump is suddenly calling pretty urgently for every country around, including China. He's asking for other countries to send ships. And this, remember, the United States, when they launched this war, went with the Israelis. They weren't asking anyone else to be a part of it. They weren't giving anyone else a heads up. They were telling the Brits, we already won. That was just last Saturday. It's too late for you to send any ships. 1 week later, he's saying we need a global flotilla. And that is because the impact of these straits staying disrupted, with the only country that can get ships out right now, the Iranians, that is a major, major disruption that we're going to feel for months in the United States and the global economy.
Just a week ago, President Donald Trump reportedly told Keir Starmer that United States did not need British assistance. According to the statement, America has already won the war. The message was simple. The U.S. military has the situation under control. But war has a way of changing reality very quickly. Now, the administration is asking allies to help maintain state passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Why is this important? Because roughly 1/5 of the world oil supply move through this narrow waterway. If ship is disrupted, the impact spread across the global economy almost immediately, and America are already feeling it. Gas prices across the United States are climbing, but the response from allies has not been what White House hoped for. Countries like Australia, Japan, and Germany have reportedly signaled they will not help extend the conflict. And now Washington is reaching even further, seeking assistance for nations like China, France, South Korea, and United Kingdom. The shift arises a major question. If the war was already won, why the sudden call for help? If major alliance decline to U.S. operation, several consequences could follow. 1. Military pressure on United States. Without coalition support, the U.S. will have to secure shipping routes largely on its own. That means one deployment, more cost, and greater strain on American forces. Economic shock. If shipping through the Strait of Hormuz become unstable, global oil supply could tighten. That leads to higher gasoline price in US, something American families are already noticing. Diplomatic isolation. Historically, US military operations overseas have depended on alliance. If traditional partners decline participation, it could signal a deep shift in global relationship. 1 week ago, the message was confident. Today, the message is cooperation. The question now isn't just about war. It's about alliance, global power, and costs that ordinary people may end up paying. If you find this breakdown informative, like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to True Verdict for more documentary that break down the global story behind the headlines. Now, we want to hear from you. If US allies refuse to help in this conflict, what do you think will happen next? Should America handle it alone? Or should global allies step in to stabilize the situation? Drop your thought in the comment below. Let's begin the discussion.